So let's sit for the last section of the conference. Just to let you know that after the conference, right after, for those that are with us here, we will have a cocktail reception around 6:15. So we wait you. It will be in the beach bar to discuss and share our insights for the day. I will repeat it in case someone hasn't heard it, but please join us. And now we will conclude the conference with the certification for managed security services. And I would like to call on stage my colleague, Vicente Gonzalez Pedro. Did I say it? Pedros? Okay. He's an expert in certification. So he will explain about the scheme that we are building, and then we will have a panel to discuss further on the certification of managed security services. So, Vicente, please.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for still being here, because just after the second coffee of the afternoon, not many people. So I'm going to try to wake you up if you are a little bit sleepy. And this is the last round, so soon we will be in this inception, having some more off-the-record discussion. So the EU certification on managed security services scheme is a request of the Commission that arrived to ENISA last year in 2025, in around these dates, by the end of April of last year, and requested ENISA to develop a scheme for the managed security services. In particular, they asked to create this scheme addressing one of the vertical layers, a specific vertical layer for the incident management's life cycle. Okay, I will explain later a bit what is this vertical layer and what are the different split. We have split it in a little bit. So after the request, we addressed that the request was the incident management life cycle was quite wide. And as this was the first service certificate scheme, we propose that we will do something smaller. So we are splitting the vertical layer in different service profiles. And we decided to choose the incident response. I will explain a little bit. So that's what we are going to work in incident response. One of the points that is important here, we always say that the certification is not mandatory, it's voluntary until it is not. So in this case, it's still voluntary, but one of the biggest relations of this scheme with the European legislations is with the Cybersecurity Act. In the Cybersecurity Act, it's stated that once there is a European scheme that covers the services that are contracted by the Cybersecurity Act, there will be a mandatory requirement to become certified in this scheme after 2 years of the scheme is in place. So this is one of the reasons that we are very looking into what are the services that are provided in the Cybersecurity Act, and this is what the reason of why we decided to go for this service profile. Okay. One of the points I have here that we are not starting from the scratch either. We have a lot of knowledge and experience in many nations in Europe, around Europe, that they already have schemes for certification of the services. And of course, we have them here around. You can see them. And they will be in the panel later with Georgia. Okay, so the request of the Commission, as I was mentioning, have two layers, one horizontal layer and one vertical layer. The horizontal layer is main for what are more or less to look into what is the provider, how the provider, what are the requirements on the provider. But one of the points that is a red line on this scheme is the horizontal layer will never be a certificate by itself. The certificate is for the service, it's never for the provider, never for the requirements on the provider. So one of the points that I will explain later, of course, we are going to be very aligned with the NIS2 cybersecurity requirements, but we are not going to do a certification for NIS2 as provider. That is not here. We can discuss what cyber posture will be, but this is not for cyber posture right now. Then the vertical layer, as I was mentioning, the request by the Commission was to start with the incident management lifecycle. There are more vertical layers expected, like pen testing, vertical pen testing, or management SOCs. We split the incident management lifecycle, as I was saying, in different service profiles. And we are looking into incident response service profile. We will have identification and detection. We will have recovery of the service. One of the things that we will discuss in the next 2 days, I didn't say that, but for the ones that you are here, probably you have here us. The next 2 days, Thursday and Friday, we have the meeting of the HADOP working group. So we have 2 days of full discussions on these topics to address one of the points, like the full scope of what is the scope and the task on the incident response. This is one of the points that right now we have in the main discussion, no? To be clear on what is the scope of this service profile. As I was mentioning, the horizontal layer are common baseline requirements. Also, it's very important to raise that in the horizontal layer, we don't have different assurance levels. It's common requirements. The assurance levels that are basic, substantial, and high are only on the vertical layer, okay? And as I was saying, the scope is now more or less in final discussions. A little bit on the status, no? As I said, we got the request of the Commission last year about this date in April. After that, and Micah have do a presentation of how ENISA worked this morning, but just to explain, after the request of the Commission, ENISA replied to the Commission with what we were expecting and how we are going to address the request. After that, we did a call at the beginning of the summer for creating a HADOP working group. This is the way we work in ENISA. We create HADOP working groups with experts. We did an open call in the ENISA certification website, and we are really get a lot of interest by the industry. So we received more than 200 proposals, people applying to be part of the HADOP working group. From that, our working groups, in this case, was of 30 people, but I have to say that we created, and there was very challenging, there were really nice, good profiles. So we have a list of 70 more people, just in case that we need more people for the different service profiles that will come after. So we look into the experience of these people for what we are doing working now, but we have a reserve list of 70, so we can address more service profiles later. On the status right now, we have 3 work streamlines, let's say. We have part of the group working together, but we are working in the horizontal layer, in the service profile, and also in parallel in the main scheme document. For the main scheme, that is the part of the draft, we have already sent the version 3. We sent it by end of March. We received 150 comments from the group that have been addressed, and we have sent last week also this version updated. But here you can see a little bit what are the points that are still under discussion for this main scheme. So the relationship with the NIS2, as I was explaining, the different assurance levels, and with the different service profiles. On this, our approach is that there will be one certificate for each service profile, but this will be discussed tomorrow, to be true. Maybe we still can change. So also the evaluation standard and the methodologies, we are looking into the certification of the CAS with the 170065, but also there is a technical specification, the 18072, that is how the evaluation will be performed, that we are also using, I see Eric, for the European wallet, and we are using it also for the managed security services. and we are pushing there to also include the managed security services to be included in this technical specification. Also, the service profiles are very cross-bordering, so the providers work all around Europe. So we are needing to establish what are the NCCAs that are in charge in case of a vulnerability to notify the ECCG, notify all the NCCAs. So we are proposing that the CAB, where is established, notify the NCCA, and that is the NCCA, the authority that is in charge to do the further notification. Terminology alignment is because here, and there was a presentation before where Philippe, when we were doing the awards, was explaining what is the ITSEF, what is the CAB, what is a CB. In this case, we don't have ITSEF, so it's true that when we were doing the scheme and the drafting, we were using CAB and CB more or less without difference, because here in this situation it's more or less the same, but we need to specify and clarify what is the scope of the CAB and choose one of the two. Certification of scope, this is something that is already addressed. We will do one certificate and it's valid for the different clients, unless there is a very, very big difference between the service for two different clients. But it was a question that was raised, and actually there was some discussion on it, no? There is questions about COPS and cost in case of the need of recertification due to some requests by the NCCAs. There is also a request from the dialogues between the NCCAs and the CAPs and physical meetings. And also there is questions about what is the information that need to be public shared on the reports that are public and which parts of the report is not shared. So this is a little bit of what we are discussing right now, what needs to be addressed in the following days for the main scheme. Of course, there is also the discussions of what are the requirements that are going to be in place in the horizontal layer and which ones are the requirements for the vertical layer. But we have to say that we are quite mature, and we hope that within the next 2 days in this great place, and thank you Cyprus, because I haven't said, to host us and to host this HADOP working group meeting. We really appreciate. And I think we have 2 following days with a lot of discussions, and maybe this timeline that I'm showing here, we can complain with it and we can be successful. So if the validation of this draft version 4 with the work of the HOLA, horizontal layer, we call it HOLA in Spanish. It's not because I'm Spanish. I didn't choose it, but it's fun. And the vertical layer, that is Vela, and it's a flag, is also nice in Spanish. So we will want to validate that this week. So then we can send the first draft for the ECCG for comments. We will give 1 month to the ECCG, to the member states for the comments, and we will address them, trying to do it in 2 weeks so we can do a public consultation by beginning of July. Giving 1.5 months for the public consultation, so we can have an address them and have a meeting by mid-September. If everything goes on path, we want to endorse the scheme by October in the ECCG. These are the timelines. Right now, we are quite on track. These timelines have been there since last year, so we are really challenging timelines. Looks long time, but it's really challenging for us, but we hope we keep on time. So for the people that is not in the HADOP working group, and let me do a little bit of publicity of ENISA certification website, because I haven't seen this slide in my colleagues today yet. We have an ENISA certification website where all the information related to the work that we do in certification is published, not only the certificates, also the studies, also the calls for the HADOP working group, also the whatever we do in ENISA around certification, we publish here. Actually, next week I will publish that there is a workshop with the companies that are involved for the UCC CRA Interplay that we were talking before. So I invite you to have that in your favorite websites and look at it often. With this, I think I give the floor to my colleague Georgia and the panel, where I guess they respond and clarify some of the questions that I raised. Thank you very much.
So let me invite on stage now Paloma, Adrian, also Oscar, Marios, Pablo. Join me. Oh, it works? You hear me? Yes, it works. So it is obvious that managed security services are becoming a cornerstone of how organizations, especially small and medium-sized enterprises, access cybersecurity capabilities. But with this growing reliance on managed security services comes a critical question. How do we ensure trust, quality, accountability? Certification can be seen as part of the answer. That's why we have this panel today, this discussion that brings together policymakers. We have 2 member states, Spain and France, industry, conformity assessment bodies, and end users, clients. So let's see if we can address the question on how EU MSS certification and whether EU MSS certification can enhance cyber resilience in Europe. So let me give the floor to you now, and you can introduce yourselves. I'm sure you will do it better than I will do. So let's start from the lady. Paloma, please go ahead.
Hello, good afternoon, evening, everyone here in Teams. I'm Digital Trust Key Manager of HACAP, accredited in Spain, Certeidas, and I don't know whether you want me to answer the question or just give the floor for the presentation.
Just present yourselves now and...
Present it.
Yes, please, Adrian.
This works? Okay. So happy to be here, my first time in Cyprus, and this venue is amazing. And the people that I met today are also amazing, so I guess you all enjoyed this meeting also, like me. I'm, I would say, an experienced, you know, in the cybersecurity area for like 20 years working in this area. I worked for the governmental cert in Romania, then I joined ENISA for a couple of years, working for the, at that moment it wasn't about certification, but it was about SCADA, smart grid, and these kind of topics that were burning at that moment. And in the last 10 years, I'm working for Oracle, managing a penetration team of, I think now I have 12 experts. Somehow this is also one of the, let's say, incentives for participating in this group, because one of the verticals would be penetration testing, but my experience also in the computer emergency response teams during those 8 years working for the government in Romania were, I think, good for these topics that we discussed in the group. So, yeah, I'll give the floor to Mario.
Everyone, welcome to Cyprus. So it's not my first time here, I'm from Cyprus, therefore, but it's my first time at this hotel actually. So I'm Marios, I am head of cybersecurity Columbia Group. My experience, it's I'm around 15 years in this industry, in cybersecurity industry. Started working in cyber defense of the army for 8 years, and I moved to Brussels to different training sections of incident response, forensics. Then I went to the European Parliament. I was working as cloud security incident responder there and leading some SOC operations. And then I came back to Cyprus, which is I am currently here now. And we are happy that we support the overall MSS scheme situation.
Yeah, hello. Hi, my name is Oscar Boisard. I work at ANSI and more particularly in the qualification of product and services office. My job consists to evaluate service providers on several schemes such as auditing, consulting, incident response, and detection. and now for a short period of time, cloud providers too. And yeah, I've been at the NC for the last 3 years, and also being, of course, the pilot for the EU MSS group for my agencies.
Hi, I'm Pablo. I'm from CCN. I'm a SOC manager. I came different. I came from the operational perspective of cybersecurity, and my entity, the CCN, it's the authority, a national authority in Spain for cybersecurity, and I work daily with MSS in both versions. I provide MSS and I contract MSS providers.
Both a client and, and the provider. Great experience. I would start from our member states here. So both France and Spain have long-standing national certification schemes, especially for managed security services. So let's hear about, in short, about these schemes. So Oscar and Pablo, can you please explain a little bit what are these schemes about, how they are designed?
So first of all, we do not certificate providers, we qualify them. It's subtle differences.
Apologies, we have some slides here, so. Okay.
Oh, yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, we qualify them. It's not the same thing because on certificates, we only assess the conformity through a baseline, whether in the qualification, we also assess the trust that we can have inside the service providers and not the service that they deliver. So the main objective for us was really to rely more on the private sectors of French ecosystem, because we cannot perform everything from our own. So this pool of qualified providers allow us to refocus on our core missions at ANSI and also help to diffuse our methodologies, our best practice to the ecosystem, both for the provider that are required sometimes to use our qualification or guide that we publish, but also to their clients to help them to have a better understanding of what we expect from the good quality.
The clicker can change.
Oh, okay, perfect. Well, oh, yeah, well, it's okay, don't worry. So yeah, so sorry for the repetition. So what I was saying that historically our mission has been to assess public institutions, but we have a growing numbers of demands and are required from both private and public sectors. So we don't have the capacity or the legitimacy to perform those audits, consulting, etc. So we rely on the private sectors, as I was saying, but not at all cost. We publish some qualification schemes, and those schemes are ours to deal with. So a brief overview of what we are doing. We've got 4 qualification schemes that roughly adapt to the EU MSS. We've got the consulting for the protect, the audit scheme, the detection and the response one. And of course, the PAMS for distant administration, sorry. Our aim was to create a loop of qualified providers for end user to be able to perform everything inside incident management within a with qualified providers, sorry. And of course, due to the work that we are doing at EU level, we had to adapt our schemes. So that's why we introduced levels of qualification in both and soon 3 schemes. So for the audits, the response, and soon the consulting. Just to give you a brief overview of how many companies that we are talking about. Mainly the intention for you is on the blue square, so the qualified companies. We've got pretty much a good numbers of companies, and it's a growing one due to the fact that we introduce levels of qualification. So there is more and more companies that are trying the qualification with the substantial level. and after maybe pass to the higher one. So yeah, of course, we have a lot of the high numbers for PACID, which is the audit scheme, explained because it's the older one. It was published in 2013, so that's why we have a huge numbers of qualified providers. But I will leave the floor to my Spanish colleagues. I don't want to.
Thank you. I'm gonna share.
I think the slides will be
Okay.
shown.
It's more easy for me. Yes. I have a little presentation. I'm sure. In Spain, we actually have a scheme for MSS. It's now. There are maybe four years ago we started it, and it's basis on a model basis or base. It's our national security framework called ANS. This is important because this model, this framework, it's about 16 years of experience. It's important, it's mature, and on top of this, we put the model for MSS certification. That's the guide 896. And with this model, we full align with NIS 2, with the amendment of CCA, and we hope with the CCA 2 and the UMSS, we hope that. And the scope of this application, of this model, it's the private sector and public sector. And the principle of this model, the most important, that we certify the services and the environment that these services are provided. It means infrastructure security and operation capability, people, processes, and technology. This is the important thing. How we do that? It's simple. We have two verticals. We have a horizontal layer that is easy. You need to have ANS medium level or 36 controls. When you have that, you can apply to the vertical layer. This is the operational layer. We identify a lot of more services. We know that, but we think these 5 services are the most important and sub-services for the management of a life cycling of an incident. This is the important thing. And if you certify one of more than one from these services, you can evaluate your maturity level of SOC, because we manage SOC too. And what is our contribution in Europe? This model, it's not designing. We are not designing that. This model are operating now. And this model combines regulatory, security, and real operation. And our numbers are more than 3,000 certified entities in ENF, more than 20 MSS certified, and more than 300 SOCs integrated in our national network of SOCs. And the impact goes beyond Spain. It goes in all the world and Europe. Because the market, all these companies that are not from Spain, they are from Europe or for US, and all these companies are certified in ANS. It's a lot of impact. And so the key is simple. NS is becoming an operational benchmark, and MSS certification should not be only about compliance. It should guarantee that services actually works. And thank you so much. We have this website if you want more information about that.
So let's talk about challenges. I mean, I would ask first you that you designed the schemes, you have seen them implemented. Do you face challenges? What are these challenges? Do you think it's easy for the companies to get the certification, especially small companies? Do they struggle?
Well, it's something that we have always in our mind when we are drafting a scheme. Actually, we have a process when we try to integrate companies as soon as possible in the drafting of the scheme. It helps us to find the right balances between our expectation and companies' expectation. And I think it's the main challenge when you are drafting such a scheme. It's to find the proper balance between level of requirements and how deep you want to go, and the practicability of the scheme and the allowance to company to actually succeed in their qualification process. I think it's something that we are quite managing today. Actually, when I was talking about our audit scheme, most of the company, I think it's something about 60 to 70% as SMEs. Sometimes with only 6 to 7 people that are competent and they are qualified at the higher level. So it's possible, it's feasible, but it surely costs time and money to the companies. So I guess we can always do better, but I think for now we are on the right track.
We have a lot of challenge all this time. I want to speak about four principal challenge. The first, that moving from compliance to real operation, because many organizations were used to passing audit with documentation, with compliance classical, but in this case, you need to prove that you can respond to incidents in real time. It's a bit different. And the second challenge, we certificate the systems with not certificate static system. We certificate live system that's involving people, processes, and technology that is much more complex to define, audit, and maintain. And the third challenge, was the integration with the different framework, like ANS, like NIS2. It was complicated about that, but we accomplished that. And finally, like my college, it was the entry barrier for providers, especially smaller one. Yeah, that why introduce a progressive levels or approach that they can accomplish a minimum of security baseline and evolve a full certification in the time.
So let's hear, Paloma, what do you think about the challenges?
Well, I didn't know I had to present my whole CV at the beginning, so I tell you that I'm a liaison of ESI ETSI in the group, MS, as an editor of the EN 31941, and this is related exactly what we're talking about here. I think when you, one of the, I want to say that the IDAS regulation and all the standardization around is a clear success for Europe, because when one QTSP, one provider, gain the evaluation, the conformance assessment positive in one single country, it can operate in 27 countries throughout Europe. based on mutual recognition of that certification, based on of a scheme that is accredited by the national NAPs and by EA, which is the European accreditation body. So these provide a whole umbrella when these medium companies can provide services throughout Europe. And this gives us a very flourishing ecosystem of providers. When you rely on national scheme, the problem is the companies has no the time, money, expertise, or even patience to get evaluated in 27 countries. This is a great effort. These national schemes are not aligned with among them. All of them are more or less based on the same principles because we are not reinventing the wheel, but the process, the scheme, the caps, everything changes. So if you want to provide a service that is per natural, like this type of services, like the management security services, are digital services as such are seen in NIS2. If you want to provide those services throughout, in more than one country, in 3 to 20 countries, then you cannot do it. That's why the list of the accredited providers in Spain are big companies, because they are the only one that can pay for that. So I think this proposal from the Commission that we are working now in ENISA is absolutely needed. We need a European scheme, and we need this scheme to substitute the national schemes, not because the national schemes are not good enough, they are very good. It's because they break the market into pieces. And it is impossible that to give the opportunity to new companies to provide those services. And at the end of the day, there are American companies providing services in Europe, and they're passing different evaluations that there are many companies, of course, but if you want to have a whole market, I think the example of the EIDAS regulation as we work is a very good example that I recommend to follow.
So this is a good pass for Adrian. I wanted to ask that, but Paloma gave me sooner the opportunity. So do you think that the EU scheme will give you some opportunities? Do you think your company, Oracle, is a multinational cross-border company, will be benefited by an EU scheme on MSS?
Not only Oracle in general, I guess all the every multinational company that has, let's say, business in Europe will need something like this, because what I can tell, for example, I know that there is a discussion about where you have the residence, where do you apply which rules and so on. And this scheme, for example, in the case of the managed security services, will make it easier for companies like Oracle to have a way to adapt their, because in general speaking, if not all, but most of the, let's say, requirements, these big companies, they comply with. It's just a matter of maybe in many situations, make them or stream them on the path that a scheme like the MSS will require. Like, I don't know, the horizontal layer, which requires specific things. Those, in 99% of the cases, there are things that Oracle and other companies comply with. But for example, also for the vertical, as in the case of penetration testing, because I was saying that's, let's say, my main work nowadays, it has to be very clear what will be those methodologies that we apply in the case of penetration test. The same also in the case of incident management. In theory, there's already a standardization existing that everyone uses when doing incidents management, but it's better to be more clear for all of us what's, the, let's call it, the path to go, and what are all those milestones that we need to achieve in order to, and this is making apparent, this is something maybe good, that there are levels of assurance, which again, might be also a debate about how high or how low you go with those levels. But yeah, talking about the big companies, I think it's not that complication to achieve those milestones, but it has to be more clear, maybe, what are those milestones. And I guess the work in this work group, it's gonna fill this gap.
Marius, what do you think? Do you think there are new opportunities by an EU scheme?
Yes, definitely. I think there are opportunities like every certification. So every certification opens you doors that you don't understand them now as a company, maybe not directly, but indirectly. So what I think is that, first of all, it's going to give you an EU-wide credential, which is something that is going to be recognized at least at the territory that it's commonly accepted by everyone. The other thing that is important is that the certification could unlock you, for example, opportunities in the cybersecurity reserve, which is something that it's already, mentioned by previous speakers. So cybersecurity reserve is going to request specific services, and of course, the first one is response not by luck, because it's the only concrete thing that everyone has its own approach on solving incidents. But if you streamline that and you certify with specific services, you know that when all these people come together in one room to solve a common issue, let's say, they have the same strategic way of thinking, because you already ask for several either baselines on specific layers or on vertical layers. That means it's easier for communication and for everyone to solve, for example, an incident. The same goes for penetration testing, etc., etc. Yeah. So I believe, yes, it's really good, and it's not a burden from my perspective, because the reuse of different evidence, which is something that is discussed. For example, if you are NIS2 or if you are ISO certified, you already have a lot of these things in place. Therefore, I don't think it's going to be a really big burden, especially for multinational companies or companies that they already have maturity level.
If we think about the scheme that we are developing, you all know about the MSS scheme. You are part of the ad hoc group. Vicente just explained how it's structured. There is a horizontal layer, several vertical layers. We are starting with the incident response vertical. So do you think this scheme will be feasible for small companies? And do we need to consider proportionality and, of course, without compromising trust, since we mentioned that especially this scheme is designed to be used for the cybersecurity reserve, so for companies that are going to offer services for critical sectors. So what is your view on that?
Well, I think proportionality must be based on risk assessment. And that is something, if you don't know your risk, you don't know how to mitigate it, and then you cannot apply any controls. So I agree with you, we need proportionality. In fact, NIS2, the implementing act of NIS2 introduced the proportionality on some of the controls, depending on the size, complexity of the company. So I think we have to look at that, but from a very serious point of view, always based on a risk analysis and a risk program to mitigate the risk. Of course, the risk of different companies differ because they operate in different ways. But if you want to have a trustworthy system, this trustworthy system needs to be based on rules you are able to repeat and you are able to demonstrate. So from that regard, I don't see any problem to provide proportionality. For example, in 27001 and 2 is based on a statement of applicability based on the risk assessment. So you always have that opportunity, but you have to demonstrate. For example, if I go to evaluate a company based on this system, the company has to demonstrate they have performed correctly the risk assessment. They have analyze how to mitigate the risk and why they have decided to apply the control in a specific way. So I don't see any problem with that. I think when you are based on an evaluation of a third party, which is at the end of the day what a certification is, you provide a trust to the market and you provide that you are working seriously. So of course you can introduce that. And I think the system with an horizontal layer and vertical layer is very much a building block approach, very useful for small companies, because you can, the moment you comply with the horizontal controls, then you can add as many services as you want, but because you already comply with the core requirements, you don't have to review any longer. I mean, you have to review, of course, because you have to review your risk assessment. But I think to approach this is the way we approach for one, and in the EIDAS regulation, we've got a horizontal service agnostic document that is for one, that applies to all providers, and then the provider can provide one service or 3, 4, 5 services. But they comply with this horizontal layer, and I think it's a very wise way to approach the work.
Oscar, what do you think?
I think to apply to proportionality and to respond to that, the key element will be level of certification. From our past experience regarding our response scheme, we've seen that before the introduction of level of certification or qualification, we only have, it's true, large company or medium to large companies, because the qualification was seen as costly in terms of money and time, and it was a remark that was made by big companies. So it's, even if the big companies say that, it might be true. And since we introduced the substantial level, we've seen that many more small entities are applying to the qualification, and they are, for most of them, successfully passed qualification. So in the end, it's only a question of tailoring the scheme to be as we want in regards of security, service delivery, and trust in the end, but also to once again tailor it in the way that small companies aren't frightened by the certification process. And on a personal note, I think we shouldn't underestimate the capacity of small companies to perform well and to comply with sometimes really high standards of security. It's something that we see on every one of our schemes. And yeah, I think with the level of certification, we could address this issue.
Do you want to add something?
We see the things like Paloma, but we now have experience in this, and we see that our first entity certified in MSS was a small company, a Spanish little company. We were amazed that, but we think that is because we are modular. The big companies afford all the services, and they want to certify all, and this company started service by service. It's more easy to afford it, and we think we need in Europe in general to reduce existing certification. We need to use that it's created now and focus on the outcomes and not bureaucracy. In these small companies, they need that, we think, and progressive certification models for these small companies.
You want to add something, Adrian, Marius?
So yeah, the only thing that I would like to add here, it's because we already almost covered. I think the approach is the same. Small companies have scaling easily, so they don't have bureaucracy. They have the startup mentality, so that means they are flexible, they are specialized because they are small. So that means if they are specialized, that makes it easier. And also, from my perspective, maybe this is what is really needed actually now in Europe, which is having specialized services on each sector of cybersecurity, so we can have capable reserves at the end of the day to do the job that we're supposed to do. So if someone does a lot of things, at the end it becomes more generic. If the company becomes bigger and bigger, yes, they have the money, let's say, and the funds to address more certification schemes, support more, let's say, international standards, but at the same time, it makes them less flexible. I will give you an example. If you go to the ISO 27001, it's about HR. If you have 5,000 employees, it's different when you want to get certified, go to make all the onboarding procedures, everything for them, how you tackle the global footprint, all these things. And that helps the small companies to scale on that and catch them up because they are smaller, so they know exactly the number of employees, 5, 10. They can have different approaches. And after that, they can reuse the certificate if MSS and working group at the end decides that all these certificates can be reused to be certified on a vertical, on a specific layer which they offer only. So that's my approach on that.
Reassuring for the small companies, so good to hear that you think so.
Okay, so are we allowed to share also what we discussed in the group, like things related to, what would be the process to evaluate, for example, the basic assurance level entities? Because for example, things like checking previous incidents, just to put it in the context, my personal opinion is that it might be complicated to get that many experts that are needed. I mean, I'm not sure if there was any study or survey done at European level, but only for the cybersecurity resource, I guess it would be complicated to get all the needs covered in terms of finding companies that would basically prove their capacity to offer services at the level that a scheme will require. And the other thought that I have is that my understanding at the moment is that this scheme, it's a voluntary scheme. It will be mandatory only for the ones that would like to participate in a cyber reserve. But in most of the cases, it will become a de facto standard, if my experience is correct. And this will mean like most of the companies would like to achieve this because, it will be a stamp that will give them trust and thrust in the sense of getting more, customers and so on. And the third thing, I think, it's also, for example, I'm not sure at the moment if someone wants to go directly to the substantial level, if it's achievable for newcomers, let's say. For experienced companies, this most probably it's a thing that can be done, and it will be easy to reach those levels. But if we want to create let's say, an ecosystem in which small companies appear every year or every month, maybe there's a lot to do also on creating the premises for these things to happen. It's not a complaint. I'm just saying, thoughts that I have after being a member in this group and seeing, the whole work that's being done, which I think is great. But yeah.
So just a last question, I think, and then we can open to the public. So if you were to decide, which next vertical would you choose after the incident response? I mean, I've heard Adrian. I guess for you it would be penetration testing, I'm sure. But okay, let's hear also the others.
I can start. So for me, if we go with the response, then we should go to threat detection. So it's like you cannot have proper incident response if you don't build right use case or threat detection. It's the operationalized part of some things that are required for incident response, because the other process when you start, it's prepare. So to prepare in an incident response process, that means you have to build different use cases, different detection scenarios, different other elements, which is detect engineering, let's say, part, which can go under one vertical, which we can say threat detection. And of course, penetration testing, it's something that is required by everyone. But the point is, nobody can have a metric how to take a company. What they do, they go to the persons. They ask, what certificates does the person has, not the service. So, and they say, give me your personnel. And they see, for example, they have OSCP, they have OSCE, they're doing exploit development, they are not. They have basic certificates, they don't. So everything relies on the persons. And that means a company cannot certify a service that it has. It cannot be streamlined, which is really a sensitive thing again. So for me, those are the next two verticals, I think.
On my side, I won't go to the detection part because I can see several large issues that may trigger some reaction, mostly to the fact that detection implies to be connected to a system. And if this, for let's say, an American company is connected to a European system, I can see some people that will find this a bit odd. So I think as a quick win, auditing will be a great choice. The work is already pretty much done. You've got several standards, norms, etc., etc. We also have some member state with auditing schemes, so we can reuse the work. And I think it could be seen as a quick win and easy to enforce a scheme.
Considering we start with incidents response, I think it's essential, like Oscar says, the detection and recovery of the incident, because we need one of the priorities. It's to afford the life cycle of an incident. We need to cover it. It's basically that, and then we can the prevention part that pen testing is cover.
Well, I don't have any specific, I think detection is the next by its own nature. I think it is absolutely needed. For me, it would be lovely to have, auditing or evaluation methodologies, but I think detection is, it goes first.
So let's see if someone from here has any questions, and then maybe we will check the questions online, since we have like 10 minutes more, I think. Yes? Okay. There. Klaus?
Hi, thanks for the comments in the panel. Not to throw fire on to throw gasoline on a fire, but how do you think sovereignty of an MSS provider would affect the resilience of Europe? If the MSS provider is a sovereign-owned entity, does that affect the resilience? Is the question, if it's clear.
You ask about when the EU MSS goes public or nowadays?
I'm trying to ask, imagine if we have two certified entities. One could be Adrian's Oracle, a multinational. One is a Spanish company owned and run by Spanish. So it's a sovereign entity, right? To which extent does the sovereignty affect the cyber resilience?
Well, this is complicated because the sovereignty it's another dimension that I cannot share. But in essential, the NSANS certifies that this company it can be from US like Oracle. Their services in Spain that provides in Spain are certified with the sovereignty and all the infrastructure covered them. But it's complicated with cloud providers. But the part that we audited them, and they share as like trust. But all these companies provide services in Spain because they need to audit by the ENS. But if I can explain you later if you want. I'll explain you better because
May I jump in? I mean, there's no way. I mean, if you want to comply in Spain, you have to go through the ENS. So the question here is, if we want this model, this European model, to substitute the national schemes, we need a regulation on that. We experienced that in the EIDAS regulation. I'm sorry to go back and forth to that. Well, on the identity proofing processes to be evaluated, we had different regulation in each country. In Spain, we have one. In Germany, 3 or 4. In Italy, I think a couple of regulations, so the companies couldn't provide services throughout Europe until this has changed with the EIDAS 2 regulation and the implementing act saying these all different standards at a national level have been substituted by one European standard. So without that, I mean, you could use voluntarily the system that ENISA is working, but the reality is if you want to provide services in Spain, you have to go to ENS, and if you want to provide services in another country, at the end of the day, you need a certification in 27 different member states. So that's what my point at the beginning of this panel.
Just to add, I think that I understood a bit differently the question. So the sovereignty that you are saying for is the sovereignty of Europe. That means Europe's sovereignty means capacity of responding in case you have an incident, because now we're talking about, let's take the scenario of having an incident, how we will stay, let's say, sustain and how we will survive, let's say, the overall process. Because first of all, let's start with the opposite one. If you have nothing and you have a large-scale incident which affects all the EU countries at the same time, having nothing versus random frameworks that exist on a different capacity and so on, I think yes, they can make it, but it's not going to be streamlined. So in case that you want to bring them in for enhance the capacity of the existing mechanism, because for example, if we take Cyber Reserve, you want to enhance more the existing capacities of EU to solve an incident. So you want 10 companies, let's say, that may do not exist from a single country, or maybe the incident started from Spain, then it went to Cyprus, and then it went to Malta. So you need companies from all these 3 entities because maybe they have to speak the language of the same, maybe they have to solve other internal issues, but they need to have something in common, right? Capabilities to do specific tasks. So I think this is a way that it can contribute. So if at least they streamline the service that they will offer, they will agree that this is the outcome, this is the deliverable that we will need to have, all of them. They have the same, let's say, approach on it because they are already certified with the same way. And we expect that this thing is going to do the proper, let's say, approach and then fulfill it. I don't know if I understood your question, if I addressed it with the right way, but... Okay.
Shall I would like to transfer some of the online questions. So there is a question for Oscar. Can you please briefly explain again the difference between certification and qualification?
Yeah, sure. Basically, we qualified service providers, and we asked service providers to not only be compliant within the service delivery requirement or the security of their services, but we asked them to be compliant with some other requirement that can echo the question that was asked right before about, for instance, the nationality of the company. Is the service performed in Europe? Is it not? Actually, they have to perform the service within the EU country, or at least a country that is following EU laws. We ask requirement about contract management, etc., etc. So it's a bit deeper than certification. Basically, the principle remains the same, that we evaluate the conformity of requirements to a baseline, but we go deeper inside non-technical criteria, and we've found our decision to be a bit more relevant to taking into account the trust that you can put inside a service provider.
Thank you. And about Spain, can you confirm whether, I can also answer it, but, no, it's about the CCN, the STIC 896, if it's available in English, and if it's possible to request it.
Yes, it's possible to request it. We have published in Spain, but we think in a couple of weeks we can share it in English.
Great. And another question about the Spanish approach. Is the horizontal layer covered by the ENS and the vertical layer by the requirements of the 896 guideline? Is it correct? So the question is, if the horizontal layer is covered by the ENS, which is similar to NIS2, and the vertical layer, let's say incident response, is covered by the requirements in the 896 guideline. That's the question. Is that correct?
We need to analyze that, but if you don't have the ENS or NIS2, you can cover it by 36 control that are published in the 896. These control are public.
Okay. So another question, and it's not directed specifically to someone, so please go ahead. What will be the interplay of the EUCC for MSS with national schemes? Is it going to be an additional possibility for MSSPs to show trust? A substitution to national schemes or something else? Okay. Confusing. Okay. Does ANSI qualification apply to service providers or to the services?
To service providers and service providers only. That's how we have such large requirement on the entities and not on the service that the entity delivers.
Okay, clear? Okay, I think this question we covered more or less how the certification schemes impact small and medium-sized enterprises. We discussed extensively about that. And another question, whether the work under PRIS and the guideline of Spain is considered, and if it will be considered in our scheme. And of course, I can answer that. We are taking very seriously into consideration the work that has already been done by the member states, not only France and Spain, but also the other member states that have national schemes. So our goal is not to reinvent the wheel, but to actually base on existing work and enhance it further, adapt it to what we want to do now. So I think right on time we can stop now and just finish this event with Philippe, who will sum up what we discussed today. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just to repeat that after the event, everybody is welcome to join us in the reception and cocktail party. So don't leave, stay with us. Right after the event, we go to the beach bar on the right side. There is a place that we can have something to drink and eat as well.
Okay. Difficult task to conclude, and I will not repeat what we heard already today. So I will try to project to next year's conference. What will we have next year's? I need a crystal ball. Kind of. It's a cheap one. Okay, we do. So next year we'll be 1 year older and wiser, hopefully. We'll have the third amendment of EUCC. At the same time, we should have around 200 certificates if we continue having the same way that we did previously with SOGIS. But we will have also EUCC CRA, presumption of conformity with a delegated act. So we should have more certificates, obviously. And we will have vulnerability of certified solutions, of course. So we'll have patch management. This is for EUCC. We'll have 2 schemes adopted in addition to EUCC and already under maintenance. So we'll have the EUDI Wallet, and the maintenance probably will be to take benefit of the 27 national schemes and the feedback of their applications so that the EU scheme can get benefit from these national schemes. We will have the EU MSS adopted with the first vertical, incident response. And as we've seen already, some appetite for new verticals. We don't know whether it will be audit, pen testing, detection or whatsoever, but for sure we'll get something. Sorry. We'll have CSA 2 under adoption, maybe, or close. So why not a new request under preparation for the certification of the posture of entities? We'll have post-quantum crypto, PQC, under development, adoption in EU systems, and why not under evaluation and certification. We will have AI to support the monitoring, the continuous monitoring of the certification states of the solution that have been certified. Does it reflect your expectations? What do you want? Same glass. Okay. As for EUCS and EU5G, this glass doesn't work. But for sure, this glass will work for the party we'll have at the beach. So I invite everyone to join the party, and I thank you for your participation to this nice conference. I thank, of course, the presidency that hosted this event. I thank the ENISA colleagues that prepared this event with enthusiasm. I thank all the panelists, and I look forward to seeing you next year, whether in this format or in the format of an assembly. Who knows? Bye.
And don't forget the survey. And of course, see you next year. But yes, this is the survey of the event. So welcome to have your comments, to take them into account for the next year edition.
So about the survey, you're going to hear us again. So we will be bothering you with email also. We need the results in the survey. And as I mentioned, also negative comments. We learn from the negative comments. So we're not afraid of them. So please go ahead. Yes.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thanks also the line one. Thanks a lot for your questions and your comments. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.